Hi guys, I'm Giselian here. Thought I'd do a video because it's in mode at the moment about the 2022 election, and what I'm going to do over the next couple of days, I'm going to do really what is essentially a SWOT analysis. This one's going to be called "What If I Was a Democrat?" Now, I'm not a Democrat, but what I am is able to look at both businesses and people and to determine strategies for them for success. This is what I've done, all my life. So I actually had a look at the Democrat Party after this election, and I put them through a SWOT analysis. Now, a SWOT analysis stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. All of these you need to know if you're going to run a business, if you're going to run a campaign, if you're going to run a military operation. So let's have a look at strengths for the Democratic Party. So at the moment, Democrats' biggest strength is going to be that you hold the popular vote. I mean, that's pretty obvious, and that we saw that even in the 2016 election as well, and we saw that in 2020. So, Democrats tend to get more of the vote. So if this was just a standard democracy, they'll be fine. The issue is, of course, that it's not, and the election races are put into much smaller pieces. Another strength that they have is a very loyal voting bloc. So these are people that will always vote Democrat. It doesn't matter who. They often say it doesn't matter who, just vote blue. So they tend to really engender that. So people that are Democrats usually are lifelong Democrats. It doesn't even matter who the person is. They just like the ideology. And the ideology of Democrats, of course, used to be much more in keeping with American values than probably it is now. Now, obviously, one of the strengths is that there is the urban areas. So the urban areas are largely run by Democrats. This can be a strength and a weakness because, as we can see, is that, just look at the color of the map, is that Democrats tend to hold both sides of America, but almost like nothing in the middle. So they have big urban areas, things like, LA and New York and Philadelphia, St. Louis, this type of thing. Also, they have an educated base. So you normally find that most people with a degree will vote Democrat. It's largely because the university system supports that, and it actually supports a more of a socialist ideology. So people coming out of 4 years of university, just been in standard education before that time, are usually subjected to a lot of that socialist ideology within university, and they then bring that out into the workplace. Obviously, the Democrats, as a strength, they have the unions. So you have these large voting blocks that you can almost like guarantee are going to be on your side, whether it be the teachers' unions, industrial unions, all these type of things. So you can almost like guarantee a lot of the votes that you're going to get. Also, at the present time, they had the youth vote. What I've always found is that when you're young, you tend to be more a Democrat ideologist. As you get older, you get more Republican. As you have more assets, as you actually get to see what the world is, you tend to get more conservative as you get older. Problem with that, of course, is that as you get older, you then die. So you then have this churn and burn of just getting more and more people. What the Democrats did very cleverly, I believe, this time, and probably what saved them, was two things. One was the student loans. So even though I think Biden knew that it was going to be unconstitutional, he did it by executive order and not by Congress, which he could have done. Could have actually just changed the law. He had both sides of the house, but he didn't. So he then put this carrot out as student loans, of course, because he knows that his voting base is more youthful. And he knew that it was actually going to get stamped down by the courts, which it did. But that wasn't, but what he did is it actually make that an election issue. So a lot of people, got those votes in because they thought they were getting the student loans. Fact of the matter is that they're not. The other thing was the abortion thing. Roe versus Wade was a very hot topic. And it's a hot topic for now, but they had opportunities to codify that, and they chose not to. So again, it was another carrot to actually buy votes. And I think that was actually a very clever strategy from the Democrats. Yeah, they know that they're not going to be able to do that now. But it was a good vote winner. So let's have a look at the weaknesses. So the weaknesses of the Democratic Party right now is their emphasis on minorities. Of course, with the way that the elections work, they work on majority rule, first past the post. So when you concentrate a lot of your energy on minorities, you get minorities. But the whole point is that they're minorities, not majorities. And when you give overemphasis to minorities, you actually alienate the majority. That becomes a real problem when you actually need the majority to actually help you. One of the things that I suppose is a little bit of a strength is that the American mindset loves underdogs. So they tend to support any type of policies that actually help minorities. Another weakness is the progressive policies. Progressive policies obviously alienate a great deal of America, and that is what has created this division. So while some of them seem to be, fairly reasonable, most of the progressive policies, come into the area of being radical or extreme. And that becomes a real problem. Also, some of the people that are actually advocating progressive policies tend to be extreme and not particularly likable. So that becomes a real weakness for the Democrats. Another big weakness, I think, is Biden himself. Obviously, he's old. Obviously, there is a cognition issue. A gaffe issue. I mean, every time he speaks, there's a gaffe. One of the major things that I think helped Democrats is that Biden sat back and just didn't try and help because he's a liability. The other liability that Biden has is his son, Hunter. And as now they go into a new Congress, there will be investigations into Hunter Biden. He is an absolute liability to the President of the United States and may even force him to retire early. Another weakness for the Democrats is that you have an aging leadership. You have your Pelosi's of life, your Feinsteins. All of these people are old. They're out of touch with what is really going on in America. And that becomes a real issue as well, as because you're trying to get to your new base, which is youthful, and they see that the people in charge, the leadership of the Democratic Party, are not like them. They hold different values. They actually, are getting to that point where very soon they're just going to have to retire. They're all in their 70s and 80s, and you're trying to attract a more youthful base. Another weakness is, of course, inflation. Biden did this almost like within the first week. He said, well, we're going to just destroy the energy sector for America. And before that, America had, energy independence. No, it doesn't. That leads him then to go back to almost like begging countries like Saudi Arabia, which we know have a problem, Venezuela, all of these countries that we've been degrading for some time, and now all of a sudden we're going cap in hand to that. That is not a good look for the Democratic Party. Also, Democrats tend to fail miserably when it comes to foreign policy. They tend to be on the wrong side of history, more so than on the right side. Just as simple as that. They've mishandled Afghanistan, to an amazing degree. And we've seen that now with the Taliban have come back in a resurgence in that way. Also, with Ukraine as well. There's major problems with the Ukraine, again with Hunter Biden, again with the whole Biden issue about Ukraine and corruption. And we know that Ukraine is a very corrupt country, always has been. So the fact that they're defending them now is a potential problem, and I think that will blow up in their face as we go into the next phase. Also, the failure to codify Roe versus Wade, they made it a big issue, but failed to codify it in the last 2 years when they had both houses. They could have done that fairly easily. They chose not to. And they chose not to for a very specific reason, and that is to actually get the votes in for this election cycle. Now that they're going to be in the minority in the House, that gives them an out. It gives them an opportunity to actually say, well, we tried, we did everything we could, but what can we do? We're now in the minority. So they're going to bank that for 2024. The problem with that and the weakness is that people will see that. They'll see that for what it is, and I think that's going to be a problem. Another major problem, of course, is the border. We've seen huge amounts of people flooding across the border and just being released back into the country. That doesn't look good. And of course, now you have some of the Republican governors sending them to Democratic cities, so-called sanctuary cities. That is going to get very old very, very quickly. And what they used to do is that they could almost guarantee the Latino vote before that. And that's why they didn't mind. Most of the people coming over, of course, 80% are going to be from Mexico, all Latino countries, and they're more likely to vote Democrat. And that's now no longer the case. We're seeing a massive push of Latinos more to the right now. So as that continues, you're going to start to see the Democrats having less and less enthusiasm about having open borders, because all they're going to do is actually put more Republican voters in. Right, so that's the strengths and the weaknesses. I can see now I've gone for nearly 12 minutes, so I'm going to cut this one short, and I'm going to do a second one on the opportunities and the threats.